Happy Spiritual Sunday. Welcome back. So we'll read something meanwhile from Karen. Of course, as usual, you open up Karen's book, Simple Light, and she says very simple. It's important to remember how you present yourself to the world is how you will be remembered. As we all know, it's not possible to make two first impressions, so make your words and actions count when you meet someone. You might be the one who makes the difference in their life. The other side, I thought this was also nice, because we often emphasize it here. If, according to Kabbalah, we are all part of the God force, then what right do we have to pass judgment on others? Which we do all the time, sadly, consciously or otherwise. And if we're all connected, then if I judge another, am I not ultimately judging myself? So the great Baal Shem Tov years and years back made it very simple. He says the entire world is a mirror. So anything you see out there is actually a reflection in you. The issue with that, when you look at a mirror at home, it's easy to see who's who. You look in the mirror, you see a similarity, to who you remember you are. And if your hair's messed up, you don't blame the mirror. You don't try and fix the mirror. You know if you fix your hair because the mirror is a reflection of you. And is that not why we use mirrors? Why do you use a mirror if not to get a reflection of you for some purpose? How your clothes look, are they straight? Is your makeup on? Your hair straight? You got toothpaste on your face? Whatever it is, you're looking for a reflection of you so you can fix whatever may be out of order, and or just to maybe even egotistically, you want to look and say, wow, you're looking great today, one way or another, but you're using a mirror and you have no doubt it's a reflection of you. But when you look at the world, that's where the opponent, which we'll talk a little about, gets in the mix and says, no, they are different than you. Well, look at us. Do we all look, any of us look close to each other? No, we're not even close in image to each other. So when you look out at the world out there, besides just the physicality of what they look like, we want to often more, let's say, self-centeredly, not necessarily egotistically per se, although, but I would never do that. I would never behave that way. You look at people today, you see some of the dastardly things people do, and unfortunately, we judge them for what they do instead of for who they are. And like Karen just told us, once you judge them by their actions, instead of seeing through their actions to the God force inside them, then that's why you can understand for thousands of years we're still in a divisive, fragmented, chaotic, painfully world. Because everybody's judging everybody else to be worse than them so that they feel better. It's the old adage or the old way of thinking, if a person not feeling so good about themselves, the easiest way to feel better about oneself is look at other people out there, the quote, famous or higher level type people, and find something wrong with them. Because if there's something wrong with them that, pull them lower than me, then I already feel better. I didn't change, nothing changed about the life, but you just feel better because there's somebody worse off than you. And this is why for all the years I've been around this lifetime, good news channels and good news magazines or newspaper fail. Because nobody, or almost nobody, wants to think there are better things out there than what they own, who they are, what they have, how they act, what's going on in their life. Everybody who's not feeling so good about some part of their life, and the sad part is you can look at people, and over the years and here and there we talk about it, in the mid-90s, all of a sudden, very famous people started to show up in the Kabbalah Center in LA, in New York, whatever. And as you get to know them, you realize the simplest thing, they're all human beings. So it doesn't matter, they got $1 million, they're famous, their pictures in the papers all over the world. They still feel miserable about themselves in one way or another because they're still human. And in fact, sometimes they're worse off because the more attention they get, therefore the more energy focused on them, the smaller details they will see about themselves. you and I can look and see maybe some of the bigger things we do. That's why we don't think we're like those people out there that are screaming at each other, cheating on each other, I don't know, beating each other up, or worse. We don't think we have anything to do with them. But you and I learn here very simply, and then we'll get into this because it's, anyway. We often explain here that our impatience, which I don't think any of us could doubt, we have here and there in a day, our impatience may be 10 watts of impatience. And so in our head, we scream at the other person. Maybe in our own car, we scream at the other person. We'll somehow act out on our impatience. But usually it's not something that most people will see or, look like it's a really terrible thing. But there's no difference other than the volume or the power of energy behind it between our impatience, screaming at the driver in front of us, or giving the dirty look to the cashiers taking too long to check us out, or the person out there who's taking a bat and hitting somebody in the head, or worse. They're just impatient in a higher way, but their impatience and our impatience is the same thing. And this is why we learn when you look at people out there and you look at the world, you have to see it as a mirror of you. The work is, what Kabbalah teaches us is you have to translate or transmute their version of impatience, beating somebody over the head with a baseball bat, and ours, screaming and yelling or being a little short-tempered with somebody or what have you. But it's the same material. No different. Impatience is impatience. So this is the benefit we learn here, is how to make use of the world as our mirror. And so today I want to get into... All right, so let's do our affirmation. Let's just get into that. So for those of you here, there we go. We say it together because we want to shift our thinking. Consciousness is everything, as the first three words are. And therefore, as we continue to not only shift our consciousness, but reinforce that new consciousness, then the more we'll be able to apply it in the world, and the more impact we'll have on the world. Because like we read from Karen, we're all one. So whatever we do affects 8.5 billion people. So let's say our affirmation together. Those of you here, say it loud so they can hear you in Hong Kong. Consciousness is everything. I raise my consciousness today to see the miracles and wonders of life. I commit myself to behave with greater love, compassion, and kindness towards all human beings. Okay, so since now we've got some of our people online or whatever, yes. So I want to dedicate this because it was just this last Tuesday was the elevation day of one of my teachers, Karen Berg, that we read from. And coming up this next week, next Sunday actually, is the birthday of my other teacher, Rav Berg. So I want to dedicate this to them. Yep. Because they changed my life, as you'll hear a little bit of. And yeah, okay. So let's just get started. Okay. Yes, it wells up every time. Okay. So for me, what the Kabbalah Center's done, it's given me a way to explain the unexplainable. If you ask people out there, what's going on in life? Why are you here in life? What's the world about? Why is there so much chaos? People are in a quandary. And unfortunately, like we say, if there's chaos in the head, even in a good way, they don't understand how people can act that way, why it's this way, why it's that way. If there's confusion in the head, what do you think is going to be in that individual's life in some way or another? Has to be also chaos and confusion in some way. Like we were saying, maybe out in the world there's chaos and confusion, 1,000,000 watts of energy, and we're in 25 watts of confusion, but it's still confusion. And as long as there's confusion, then unfortunately, we're all empowering chaos to continue. So for me, what Kabbalah did, I can't tell you I'm practicing it 100%. I got the idea and understanding, but it's still an effort to apply. But it's giving me a greater sense of peace and harmony because I understand why things are going on. So it's no longer confusing why there's chaos. It's just now understanding and making an effort how to turn the chaos back into order. But at least I understand that there is a primordial order and there's an order to everything. There's cause and effect to everything. And I want to share with you at least an aspect of that. And remember, as I'm sharing some of my personal journey here, I want you to think of yours, how it's impacting you. And like we say in Kabbalah 1, Class 1, I'm not asking you to just believe what I'll say, but I am asking you not to just offhandedly dismiss it because you don't believe in it, or it doesn't seem to fit your paradigm of life, or it doesn't make sense to you, or something like that. At least be open-minded to listen, see what impacts your heart and soul, what makes greater sense in your life, and then see how you can use it for your benefit. Because the essence of what we teach in the center is just how to make sense of life so that everybody can live their best life. And then peace will happen in the world. So like this. So growing up, I grew up in California, a little beach city in California. And as long as I can remember, I always wanted to be a doctor. That was it. As far back as I remember, I wanted to be a doctor, not because my parents were Jewish, for those of you who get that, but no, I wanted to be a doctor because I wanted, and this is like 6, 7 years old, 8 years old, I wanted to remove pain, suffering, and death from the world. And at 6, 7, 8, looking back, obviously, I have no idea how I came up with that idea, but you'll get a sense of it through today. But that was it. I wanted to stop pain, suffering, and death from the world. So that's how I grew up. And that's, maybe we'll get to that, a little bit of the schooling. But anyway, then there was also, since I was maybe 7 or 8 years old, I was glued to the television every time there was a show about World War II, the guy from Germany, or the Holocaust. Glued. Not just, okay, my parents were watching. No, nobody was watching it but me. My family never talked about the Holocaust. We didn't lose anybody in the Holocaust. We had, in essence, no connection to it. But as far back as I can remember, I was glued to the television. You understand? Glued. I'm emphasizing that. It wasn't like, oh, wow, that's interesting, or that's terrible, and then walk away. Glued. Anytime I could find any show, glued to the television. Now, also, my father was a New York State policeman. My brother's friends, I have older brothers, their friends were, local policemen. I had no issue with policemen, from this life, but every time a police car would drive by, I would tense up. All I had to see was a police car go by, a police car behind, even driving. Once I started driving, I know I'm driving the speed limit, all the right rules, but still, a policeman, motorcycle police, or a police car, tensing up, and like paranoid. They're going to pull me over. Okay, so that was another thing. And then I had, growing up, unusual dreams, let me just leave it that way, about flying, and unusual, like just crazy but impactful dreams of like being in the Middle East, but like in earlier times. Okay, so you grow up, I had no framework to understand it, but these were pieces that I'm sharing with you because you'll see how I came to see the congruency and the sense of it. Okay, so that was it. So, I go through life, I go to school, I'm doing really well in school, I go to high school, and now I am going to be a doctor, right? So I figured the faster I become a doctor, the faster I can stop pain, suffering, and death. So I go through blended high school in 3 years. I get into UCLA pre-med. I'm studying pre-med, 4 years, graduate, getting ready to graduate, applying to medical school. And some of you, I've told a little bit of the story. My mother dying of cancer. Okay, so I'm watching the doctors, and she's in the hospital the last couple weeks, obviously looking back, but the last couple weeks, and the doctors would tell us the cancer is so far spread throughout her body, she's going to die this week. And she lived through the week. She's saying goodbye to people coming from New York. I lived in California. She's saying goodbye to the local community because she was very involved in the Reform synagogue that I grew up in. She and my father had a very discordant divorce, and they had a private meeting. And every week, the doctors say, she got to die. Oh, she lived this week, she's going to die. And finally, after about 2 weeks, they just threw her hands up and said, we don't know. We have no idea. She's just going to go when she's going to go. So at the end of saying goodbye to everybody, and that last meeting with my father, so to this day, I have no idea what was said. It was just the two of them, and nobody shared anything. So that was that. But literally, after she said her goodbyes to everybody, boom, her soul left the world. So I realized at that point, why be a doctor? There's no technology how to stop pain, suffering, and death. Sure, please, I don't mean in a disrespectful way. Doctors are good. I'm not telling you never go to a doctor. They can help with things. They can solve some issues, things like that. But can you tell me they have a solution to finish pain, suffering, and death from the world eternally? No, they don't have the technology. So at that point, I decided I was going to start exploring these other things that happen to me, the dreams, things that we would say on the other side of the five senses. So I got introduced to something, and I usually don't share it, but I'll tell you, even though it's going to be recorded. But I was introduced to something called science of mind by a friend of my father's, basic spirituality. So I figured I'd go. So I hear this guy talking, everything is cause and effect, God is not a person, it's like an energy, and what you want to do is sort of align yourself with the Creator, with God, and then state what you want, and hopefully in that way you'll get what you want. Okay, it was great. It started to get me a little bit of understanding and getting out of the grief of the death of my mom. So cut to the chase, I became a teacher, Science of Mind. I was involved in it 10 years, and because of that I was looking in any metaphysical bookstore for any kind of books. I figured if I'm going to teach this stuff, then the more I know, the better. People who would come with questions, whatever. But there were things Science of Mind didn't talk about. That at that point, reading some other books, teachings of the Far East, the Gitas, the Upanishads, things like that. So I'm reading all these other books, and all of a sudden, I come upon this idea of reincarnation. And now things start to make sense. But it was just sort of fundamental. There is reincarnation, and you'll come back again, another life or whatever, and that's it. So March of 1987, I was literally picked up, and I won't take our time now, but I was picked up and I was dropped in the Kabbalah Center. 1987, the first tiny office we opened in LA, and my introduction was Karen. March 22nd, 1987. Karen blew me out of the water. I thought, this is for me. And then she said, this was a Sunday night, and Tuesday, Wednesday night, the Rav is coming to give a seminar. I had no concept what the Rav was. I knew it was a person, but I had no understanding what the Rav meant. But I figured if she was amazing, I took that class. So I spent 2 nights with the Rav. And again, like things that just, I thought Karen opened up my soul a little bit with some of the things she said. The Rav went through reincarnation, astrology, meditation, numerology, these different things. And it's like, wow, this is what I've been looking for. So of course I took Kabbalah 1 and 2. And by the end of Kabbalah 2, January of 88, I moved to New York to be a teacher, and I've been here ever since. Okay, so that's it. Now, the thing that happened was, once I started taking classes, everything became more clear. I mean, it became more obvious to me, yes, there's not only reincarnation, but the Zohar and the Kabbalists explain every detail of reincarnation. And so the first thing, when I first started back then, 88, 89, 90, if you were involved in the teachings of the Far East, there were people who understood a little of reincarnation, at least the idea. Most of the Western civilization, because they thought Christianity and Judaism didn't teach reincarnation, which is a lie. The origins of Christianity and the origins of Judaism do include reincarnation. But most of the people either didn't study it or thought it was something far out or wasn't real or whatever it was. So let me just give you a simple understanding or fundamental understanding. Why do you have to reincarnate? Why is there reincarnation? So for me, it's very simple. And we've talked about it, and it's always good to remember. But the only reason we came out of what the Kabbalah says the endless world was because the Creator filled us with its light. And our job being in this world is just to be like the creator, if you will, the possessor of light, created us to share its light. So our job, we came into this world just to take the light of our soul and shine it out 24/7 like the Creator. Because if like attracts like, and similarity of form it's called, so if we act like the infinite Creator, which is infinitely blissed out, then we will have also infinite bliss. The issue is, okay, we came down here, but in order to make it a true sense of fulfillment, we created a challenger. And we talk about it a lot, so let me just leave it that way. We created a challenger that was implanted in our head, so that's why I call it the original AI program. It's not us, it's a false voice, it sounds like us. It's there simply to say, no, 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 you don't want to share your light. You see emptiness in the world, you got to go get from the world something to make you feel fulfilled. So now you have the two opposites, and that's where free choice comes in. Our soul says, take the light from inside, manifest it out, have bliss and all kinds of good things, and the removal of darkness, pain and suffering. The opponent in our head, the challenger, says, no, no, get from the outside, you'll have instant gratification, but then it's going to wear out. Like everything we do. Think about it. You give into your bad habit, it's great for 5 minutes, and then you have guilt, shame, and you promise you'll never do it till the next time. Instant gratification, short-term fulfillment. And that's what creates what the Kabbalists call our tikkun, or in the East it's called karma, spiritual debt, spiritual debt. So each lifetime we have, or let's say in a lifetime, our job is to beat our opponent, beat that challenger, and just share our light 24/7. So when the nasty person gets in front of us and stops at the yellow light when you're in a hurry and you want to scream, yell, and just ram their car, although you don't do that, but you want to do it and you have all that pent up energy. No, the point is stop, shine light on that person. You want to be like the Creator, have eternal bliss, you got to act like the Creator and shine light 24/7. Period. That's our job. But when we don't do it, we add to our debt. So then our job is, how do we pay our debt back? Is when we feel angry and we shine light of forgiveness. When we feel jealous and we shine the light of gratitude and appreciation. You're paying your debt back. Sadly, we have been unable to do it in one lifetime. So what do? So you either have to think of eternal hell, right? Because a person has one chance to do it and doesn't do it, then what would life be like in this world or that world? Hell. No. So that's why I like simple things. If you woke up today and after Spiritual Sunday, because we're all here, you have a list of 10 things you're going to do, right? I have to get these 10 things done. So let's say by the end of the night, you've only done 8. What happens to the other 2? They just magically get done because we're such nice people. We pray to God, God, please do the other 2 for me. No, this world is us. The Creator only gives us and constantly infuses us with the power to do what we came here to do. But that's all the Creator's involvement is. Give us power. We're the ones who said, no, I want free choice. I've got to share my light. That's my free will. But I created an opponent to give me the real free will of just thinking about getting instead of sharing. So you wake up in the morning tomorrow, what have you got first thing on your plate? The 2 things you didn't do yesterday, right? And then whatever else you decide you want to get done in that day. It doesn't just go away. So reincarnation is just a larger frame of that. What we don't accomplish in one lifetime, if we go from a person entered into this lifetime, or let's say their last lifetime, at 30% of their potential revealed, and they have 70 yet to do. And then let's say in their last lifetime, they went from 30 to 60. So they still have 40% more to go. So they reincarnate into this lifetime with 60% goodness, kindness, like we affirm, love, kindness, and compassion. But there's 40% more power, at least behind love, kindness, and compassion that we can express in the world. But how do you increase greater kindness, let's say? You're at 60%, so 60% of your life, you're happy to be kind to people, places, and things. But there's 40% that you're not willing to be kind towards, that you're judging them. Anger, resentment, hurt, jealousy, whatever it may be. So only when you feel that darkness, that anger or that resentment or whatever it may be, can you then shine from 60 to 65 or 70% of your potential. You can't grow if you don't make an effort. So if you just stay in your comfort zone of 60% kindness, 60% love, 60% compassion, you're going to be 40% miserable a whole lifetime. But you'll say, oh, but 60% was okay. And look, there's other people, they're only at 40, 30, or 50. So I'm already ahead of them. Yes, but are you who you're meant to be? Are you the person that the Creator created you to be? No. So that's why we have reincarnation. Now comes the details that I never heard anywhere else except through the Zohar. Because as we've come to understand, or at least explain, the Zohar is simply the blueprint of the universe. That's it. So it includes Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, chemistry, physics, quantum physics, medical science, psychology. Everything there is in the universe is in the blueprint of the universe. So let me give you some ideas. Why is it that people are born in some advantaged ways and others in disadvantaged ways? Born. I mean, how much could they do at 3 seconds in this world to be stuck in a war zone, I don't know, a sickness with terrible people around them, whatever. So reincarnation for me made a lot of sense of that. Why we're born the way we are, where we are, and how we are, whether it looks fair, not fair, other people are good, it's bad, whatever, right? It explains it all. But now we got to look at, so let me give you an example to see. Because if you understand what we're saying, the 8 you got done last time and the 2 that are left over, it's easier to understand why some people are born in not so good situations and others are born in better situations. But we all still have more to do. So let me give you this example. So if you remember the biblical story, and if you're new to Kabbalah, the Kabbalists teach us that the Bible is, the 5 books of Moses did take place. So there were people, Adam and Eve, there was Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, all of that. But the bigger understanding for us is what technology, what spiritual technology were they giving us that we could live today to also have our freedom from bondage, our piece of the Garden of Eden, our piece of paradise, how we could achieve our purpose in this world. That's what we really want to get. So here you have 2 brothers, right? Adam and Eve had 2 kids, Cain and Abel. The Bible simply says one day Cain got, for whatever reason, upset at Abel and killed him. That's what you read in the Bible. Okay, great. That's why the Zohar says you can't just understand the Bible only on its literal level, because why would he do such a thing? But here's a few more details, and I don't want to go too much into it, but at least you'll get the idea, because I want to show you one reincarnation of this. So what the Zohar says is Cain was jealous of Abel's wife. Let me just make it simple like that so I don't distract you with too much of the details. And therefore killed Abel to take Abel's wife. Okay, that's that lifetime. And then Cain gets, excommunicated out of the Garden of Eden, blah, blah, blah. Now fast forward, 1,000 or so years, and you have an interesting story about Moses. You know Moses? Not your neighbor Moses. I mean Moses of the Bible Moses. Led us through the desert 40 years. So if you remember, there was an interesting thing. Moses married this woman, Tzipporah, whose father, I'll just throw it out there, was at that time the world's leader of idol worship. Okay, his name was Jethro. So how it happens, whatever. So Moses marries Jethro, the world leader of idol worship, marries his daughter. Right? Okay, the whole story goes, Moses is now called by God, he's in the middle of the desert. So now Jethro wakes up and he realizes, after hearing miracles, the splitting of the Red Sea, a few other things, he realized, you know what, he better stop idol worshiping and he better go to Moses and start learning what Moses is teaching, what you and I would say Kabbalah from the Zohar. So in the Bible, which is coded, there's an interest, here comes Jethro looking for all the Israelites, millions of people in the middle of the desert, and Moses, and he sends a message. Moses, I, Jethro, am coming to visit. I, Jethro, your father-in-law, coming to you. So the Kabbalists explain, if you look at the 3 words, I, Jethro, your father-in-law, the initials in Hebrew, in the original language, is Achi, which means your brother. Moses was Abel, Jethro was Cain reincarnated. So Cain / Jethro in that lifetime gave back the wife through his daughter Tzipporah, because she was the soul of that wife that he killed Moses or Abel over, and now he's giving her back. Here, let me make up, let me do my tikkun, it's called, my correction, give you that woman that I killed you for, let me give you her back. So that's a simple way of understanding this story, how it happened that way, because if you really study a lot, it kind of makes no sense, the physical, literal story, why all of that happened. But again, just to show you how in one simple way, reincarnation takes place. Otherwise, what do you do with the soul of Cain and Abel that did what they did and experienced what they did? So you start to understand what happened. Okay, so now let me give you a few details about how reincarnation works. So let's start fundamentally. Each of the 8.5 billion parts of the one soul, we have our own individual pathway to put all of the pieces together. Funny, I just see the vision now. You ever, maybe you remember there are cartoons? Any of you remember cartoons? No, now it's anime. You know, my kids have fancy word for cartoons. It's anime, but cartoons. So in some cartoons, because it's all obviously cartoons, you know, somebody is chasing somebody and they give him a gift, but the gift is a stick of dynamite. So the person blows up, right? So you see, whatever, here's the coyote, it blows up into 50 pieces, and then the 50 pieces you follow come back together, and now he's going to chase the roadrunner. Hint, hint. All right, you can look it up, you'll know, never mind. You know, but the picture is that it exploded into all those pieces, and then they're all coming back together. So in simple terms, Adam and Eve, two people, exploded into 8.5 billion pieces, which are all the people on earth today. Our job is, like in the cartoon, get back together, right? Reunite as one entity, which is what we really are. So now, it's my job and my soul's job to reach 100% and unite with all the other pieces. But I have to deal with the choices I've made, the good ones and the wrong ones. You have to deal with your series of good and bad choices. So fundamentally, my soul, which is filled with all the knowledge, everything I've done in this life, past lives, it's like the recorder of everything we've ever done, and it's the vision of what we're supposed to be, and it's the one that wants to guide us to achieve our fullest potential. Our soul, for all you, well, if you're watching me, then you're not just a 1%er, meaning you're not just caught in the five senses. But pre-med, okay, I'm going to throw this in. And again, please don't judge me. I'm not saying that it's not a good thing that science does research or whatever, but this is even before I had my spiritual awakening. I'm taking a genetics class. And so you start to learn. If you take, you know, a father with this genetic makeup and a mother with this genetic makeup, and you're now going to combine them into a child, and then they give you this. 50% chance it'll be whatever this, blue eyes, brown eyes, whatever, 50% chance of this, 30% chance of that, 25% chance of this, 20% chance of this, 15 of this, 10 of this, and 5 of this. And I remember back then thinking, this isn't even as good as the weather report. The weather report, at least they say 80-20, 20% chance of rain. They're always right. It rains, they say, we told you, 80% chance. It doesn't rain, they say, well, we told you, 20% chance. But it's like, you know, it's worse than Las Vegas, 50, 30, 20, like this. So nobody can say, well, if you put these two parents together, this is what you get. It's only a possibility of this, that, and the other thing. But the Kabbalists teach us, it's our soul, when our soul is in that transition period between the cycle of, and remember, the original language, Aramaic Hebrew, is the language of the soul. So reincarnation, very interestingly, is called Gilguli Neshamot, the wheel of the soul. So when you talk about karma, people talk about karma from the Far East, the wheel of karma, right? Turns. So you face yourself, then you go and you face yourself again, etc., etc. Kabbalah says, no, it's tikkun. If you ride a bicycle, you take the handlebars and you decide where you're going to turn. The wheel's turning either way, but you decide, is the wheel going to turn to the left, the right, or stay forward? So our soul, and this is the key, our soul chooses our parents, Yes. I know some of you going, no way, I would never choose those. Well, of course, on a conscious level, you might not, but on a soul level, you choose what you need. You choose your parents, you choose your astrological sign, you choose the place, the time, the sign you're going to come into. You choose all the factors. Now, let me give you a physical understanding, because you and I know everything in the physical starts in the spiritual. The spiritual is not the effect of the physical. The physical is the effect and the outpicturing of the spiritual. Like, you get hungry, then you go to the refrigerator and eat something. Or you get stressed, and then you go eat. I had some smart aleck who tried to tell me that once. He said, oh no, I don't get hungry. Okay, so you're stressed, and then you eat. But first comes the invisible, then the visible. So you look at the visible, it's easy to see the person is stressed or they're hungry, and that's why they're eating. You understand the idea? Okay, so how many of you ever went, you wanted to go buy groceries? You ever gone to buy groceries? Oh no, now you dial up. Now I'm thinking, I'm in the 21st century, right? So you dial the app and they shop for you. Okay, so forget that, but you get the idea. You want to go shopping for groceries. Do you go to a department store that sells clothes? No. Yes or no? It's a store. You can give them money. You can walk out with things. Why don't you go to the clothing store to buy your groceries? Because your idea is you want to buy groceries, you have to go to a grocery store. You want to buy clothes, you have to go to a clothes store. You want to play tennis. Do you play tennis on a baseball diamond? Do you play tennis, I don't know, on a volleyball court? No. You want to play tennis, you choose a tennis court. Everything necessary to play tennis. Not only the court, you choose to take a tennis racket, you choose to take tennis balls, you choose to get an opponent, a friend or something to play on the other side. You choose all the factors. So why wouldn't it be the same way with our soul's evolution process? What we didn't finish in a last lifetime, or what we experienced in a last time, our soul says objectively without emotions, okay, so you need these kind of parents, you need this astrological influence, you need this environment, good, bad, or otherwise, you need this health or lack of health, whatever it is, how you're born is the choice of our soul. Now, some of you are already going, maybe not you here, but some of you out there could be going, I dismiss all this, don't believe it. Don't believe it, it's only to your disadvantage. Because how are you going to explain it otherwise? You're going to say the universe is unfair? If you say the universe is unfair, you might as well just leave now. What would be the purpose of being in a world that's just chaos and random and you have no way to control any of it? But if you learn enough Kabbalah, you can control the direction, in the light or in the darkness. Less chaos or more chaos. Those are our choices. The details may not be of what's going to happen from our choices. But we're in control every choice we make. So it's to our advantage to at least say, okay, let me see how it fits. And that's why I want to share with you this way. But we choose all those things, right? It's our choice. Okay, so then going back to my story, and you need to be relating it to your life. Hopefully already you've started to think of things that as you were growing up didn't make sense either. What music you liked, how you were attracted or repulsed by certain places, times of the world, times of history, or whatever, where there's a strong attraction, an illogical thing like me with the Holocaust, being glued to the television at 7, 8 years old, either an attraction or repulsion is a good hint at what your past life might have been, at least one of your past lives. Probably the last one, right? Was like. So go back to me. So I started to understand, why was I so fascinated with the Holocaust? Why was I so jumpy every time there was a policeman? And something I didn't tell you, why I was so obsessed all my life with being on time. So whether you believe me or not, I came to understand even my first few years in the center that I had been in my past life in one of the concentration camps. My first initial feeling was Auschwitz, but I wasn't sure. But that then, once I put those pieces together, made a lot of sense. How I picked the environment that I grew up in and why I had these various illogical behaviors. It made a lot of sense. And then without more details, I came to see over the years in the center And more recently, like the last few years, oh, okay, so I will tell you this. I came to realize, even after years in the center, about 7, 8, 9 years ago, I had a vision of how I came into this lifetime in like a shell. Even though I was teaching Kabbalah and I was helping people and all of this, obviously with the part I came with that was the revealed part of my soul, but also I knew since I was a kid I had this sense. Oh, that I didn't tell you also. Okay. A lot of other details, but let me just leave this. I realized I was in this shell, literally a shell, and that's why there was parts of me along the way that I could be friendly, but I like to be by myself. And I, could isolate myself and be very comfortable being by myself and not interacting with people. So when I came to see and understand being in the concentration camps, it was easy for me to understand. If you've ever been there, and 2017, after all these years, I went back to Auschwitz. And it was one of the most powerful and amazing experiences I had, because it pretty much finished most of my tikkun with that. But, once I saw again physically, visually, the environment was there, the way the barracks were, and on and on and on, it was easy to understand how all these details, obsessed with time, couldn't, was scared of the police, wanted to be by myself. I mean, you're packed, like this, of course, you want to be by yourself. And also, okay, I'll tell you why I couldn't even hit my sister as much as she would annoy me. I couldn't do anything to hurt another person. As long as I could remember growing up, I just wouldn't. Okay, yeah, I'll tell you. If you want to know, I'll tell you another time that story. But so these things started to wake up in me, and now I started to see. And then about a number of years back, I saw the shell. And I just tell you this part because it validates what we're talking about. And of course, there were parts of what I'd learned over the years that made sense, and I just accepted it was true. What Kabbalah teaches, what the Zohar, it's fact. It's the universal immutable laws. And piece by piece, you start to see more. So I had this one vision, blended a million zillion times. I was inside the shell. I saw the shell. I knew I'd been in a shell in various levels all my life, but I see this like stainless steel, just like you'd see in a science fiction movie, stainless steel shell, right, like a sphere. And on the wall, there's all these monitors. And on the monitors, all different aspects, pieces of my life. Pieces of my life, growing up, what happened in school, this and this and this. And looking at this, and for whatever reason, I put my hand on the shell and I said, give me a message. It says, you built me, you can take me down. And so at that moment, I basically, above my eyesight, it's the only way I can explain it, but I knocked out a piece of that shell, and this most brilliant light shined through. And I realized how dark and chaotic the shell was. Up until that point, it was, semi-comfortable in many ways, but the light was so bright. And the reason I tell you it was above my eyesight, because I couldn't see what was out there. It was just this, like people will tell you with a near-death experience, they see the light and this, and that's the only thing I can relate with. This was not near-death. I wasn't in anything like that. It was just a deep meditation. And the light was so powerful, I committed myself at that point. I said, I don't care what people do. I don't care what they say. I don't care what's going to happen to me. I'm going out there. I'm tearing this down and I'm going out there because that light was so powerful and so amazing. I didn't want to be anywhere else. And from that point, a lot of things have started to change. The other part is, okay, so like I said, it made a lot of sense, and I'm hoping you're thinking about your life, how things start to make sense, because you want to find like a common factor. You want to see a thread of things like that. I'll give you one other thing, and I would like to just take it for objectively. Don't let the opponent, that challenger, that AI programming make you think in any other way. It's just for understanding. So let me start you with, and again, some of you, I ask your forgiveness if I push your buttons, but it's a very stereotypical thing. Who usually, maybe these last few years are an exception, but let's say from whatever, 5, 10 years ago, who stereotypically was the most vocal anti-smoker? Somebody who stopped smoking. You follow? They smoked, they realized how bad it was, they stopped smoking, and now they're out. Again, in good intent, but obviously, you know, sometimes a little too aggressive or whatever, but they're out there saying, no, don't smoke, it's terrible, awful, like this. So if you think in all various ways, it makes sense, right? Now, let me give you a Kabbalistic basis for this. So Rabbi Isaac Luria, which is the form of Kabbalah that we teach, that all the great Kabbalists up until the Ari, which was 600 years ago, 500 years ago, all the Kabbalists that had their own ways of introducing or sort of their perspective on how to teach Kabbalah, once the Ari came with his all-encompassing tree of life, 10 luminous emanations, it's called, literally all-encompassing wisdom explanation, they all said this is the way for the end of pain, suffering, and death, Lurianic Kabbalah. So he explains like this, and it's a little bit of the Bible, but hopefully it'll wake up something in you, because it sure can make a lot of sense of what's happening in the world and hopefully take away some of our angst or worse about what's happening in the world. So he says, and you have to look up the biblical part if you're not familiar with it. At the time Joseph was taken slave in Egypt to become second to Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, at the time Jacob and the 70 people of his family went down to Egypt. At that time, Rabbi Isaac Luria writes, the Egyptians of that time, when Jacob went into Egypt to settle in Egypt because his son was basically the ruler of the world, 210 years later, when Moses led the Israelites out of the bondage, it's called, of Egypt, to go through the desert to get to the promised land, the souls that were the Egyptians at the time when they went down there 210 years earlier were the same souls that were now incarnate in the Israelites who left Egypt with Moses. So when I first heard that years back, I started to think about it. So you think about the Israelites, you know, Jacob took his 70 people family into there, and over 210 years, basically, the Egyptians, right, enslaved, and I won't get into what it really means, but enslaved the Israelites. So of course, do you think everybody was happy with each other? No, I'm sure there was a little friction between the Egyptians and the Israelites, right? Because they were in bondage and this and this and this. But if you think about it now, the people who began the bondage of Israelites at the time of Joseph and Jacob, 200 years later, were the souls of the Israelites who had been in bondage to the Egyptians, who are now leaving Egypt with Moses. So if you understand that, and you are willing to make the effort to translate it into what you see today, and you pick, I don't care which one it is, I would guarantee you 90%, if not more, of those who have very, I guess, any animosity towards any other group, whatever group you'll pick, religious, economic, political, whatever, used to be those people. And now that they've incarnated on the opposite side, now like that reformed smoker, no, we hate you. No, we got to do something against you. No, like this. So you have both sides, whichever one you pick. So let's try and make it a little easier, right? So if you have the green people and the red, no, because I got to make sure I try and stay out of politics. If you've got yellow and purple, okay? I haven't heard of anyone say, well, those are those people. Okay, so you have people yellow or purple, right? And they have some conflict. Then they die and they go through their transition. Now the yellow become the purple, incarnate as purple, and the purple incarnate as a yellow. What do you think's still going to be there? They're still going to be pointing at each other because they realize they did wrong the lifetime before, so now they're just like the anti-smoker. Don't smoke, it was terrible, it's hurtful, like this. And that's where you got all the conflict. So if we would just stop, and it wasn't interesting, if you missed it, we read from Karen. Oh, and I'll read it again, simple light, just because it fits. According to Kabbalah, we are all part of the God force. Then what right do we have to pass judgment on others? And if we are all connected, then if I judge another, am I not ultimately judging myself? So if you now put some of these pieces, just what we've talked about now in this short time, and especially this last piece, so think of the people, again, in a group way. Individual, yeah, it's the same process, but in a group, it's a little more powerful. That group, whatever the group is you don't like, that religion, that culture, that nationality, that color, whatever it is, realize you probably, in a past life, were those people. And now whatever you did wrong back then, now you're fighting against the same thing, just in somebody else. But like Karen says, and we often talk here, we're only one soul. Stop judging each other. Go back to the simplest, not easy, but simplest thing Kabbalah Center teaches us. So simple. See, you forgot. There's only one thing in the universe, spiritually or physically, will remove darkness. You forgot. Light. You walk in your house, you turn on the light. Nothing else in the universe will remove, by transformation, darkness into light, except light. The darkness just disappears. Have you ever seen darkness fight going away? You ever turn on your light bulb, walk in the house at night, you turn on the light, and the darkness and the light are fighting? Darkness doesn't want to go away? Have you ever seen that? Have you ever heard of it anywhere? That the darkness doesn't want to go away in the face of a candle, electric light, whatever force of light. It just disappears like this. It has no free will. Darkness has to disappear in the face of light. If you and I are filled with the infinite light of God, the light of the Creator, and we shine it out into the world, then it also has to, 100% of the time, take away darkness. Now, the issue, like we said, if you're shining 5 watts of light into 1,000, let's call it watts of darkness, you're only going to take away 5 watts. But those 5 watts are gone forever, and they're illuminating now 5 watts forever. So now you shine 10, you get rid of more. You're getting the idea? So the only thing that's keeping chaos in the world is people are pointing the finger at everybody else. They're not taking responsibility. They're not realizing that they chose to be in this life, in this way, in this thing. And because of their past life, they're now being affected and influenced to point the finger at those people. And from minor resentment, hurt, anger, to major hatred, violence, and killing, they're just beating themselves up through other people. We've got to start waking up and realizing if there really is only one soul, and I want to achieve my goal, and we want to achieve collectively, I've got to stay focused. This is why I tell you, the center has been amazing, because it's just the immutable laws, and it teaches us from Kabbalah 1. You've got to be challenged. You either challenge yourself to share uncomfortably, or you will be challenged to share uncomfortably. But we all decided, we all committed ourselves, leaving the endless world, we were going to shine our light 100%, 24/7, unconditionally. So you cannot change the deal in the middle. That's what has to happen. So if today, starting today, we say, I want to achieve my mission in life and have my piece of harmony, joy, paradise by beating my challenger that says try and take, and I beat my challenger by sharing. If I want my piece, then shine my soul's light 24/7. The beauty of the system, Kabbalah, is that I can't have my piece of the Garden of Eden if I don't shine my light 24/7 to help take darkness away from everybody else and help everybody in their mission, supporting them to achieve their goal. And for me, that's the power of the center. As I told you, I came in as a Libra. So stereotypically, Libra, wants to fight injustice and unfairness. But now at least I came to take away, and hopefully for you also, the idea of physical unfairness, right? Why is that happening to this person? Well, if Joe stole from Jim last lifetime, so the money has to go back. So whether it's Jim steals it back or they lose it somehow, that's not unfair. That's the universe taking what was owed from a past life. So there is no such thing unfair. So what shifted for me is, yes, jump out of trying to make everything fair physically and make everything fair spiritually. Sadly, to this day even though the center, since our inception, technically 101 years ago, but even since, let's say, 1970, 71, when the Rav took over the center from his teacher, Rav Brandwein, and to all of our good fortune, Karen and the Rav got together, because Karen's the one that said, teach to the world, open up centers, get teachers to do this. That, I jumped from the physical fairness, let's call it, to the spiritual. Who does not deserve to have the wisdom of Kabbalah? Who does not deserve, on a soul level, to have the access to the Zohar, to this wisdom? And that what the center is offering us is the support, the tools, the wisdom, how we can take away all of the divisiveness, because that's all darkness is just fragmentation. If you're holding resentment to somebody, you're separate from not only their soul, which is important to you because it's part of you, but you're also separate from your own soul. You didn't raise your spiritual elevation from 60 to 70 to 80. You're still stuck where you are. So the beauty of the system is, by my wanting, my 100%, and to make it fair that everybody has access to this, so I'm helping not only me, but everybody at the same time. So we do have the power. There's no reason, if we hold the consciousness, everyone and everything is a reflection of me, that I can see where I'm blocked, how I'm blocked, what my obstacles are, and then with the Zohar, with Kabbalah, with all the tools and the wisdom, I can unblock myself. I'm also unblocking the space between me and all of your souls, and the 8.5 billion pieces of my one soul. We're also activating everybody else's soul, so that somewhere inside of them there's an awakening of understanding that they are God-like, all-powerful beings who have the ability to take control over their destiny and unite people by taking away the space, by taking away the blockages, by giving people the tools, the wisdom, the understanding to see that big picture, which takes away the stress of chaos. Yeah, if I see something as a mess instead of chaos, I can put the mess back in order. I can put disorder back in order, but if a person really thinks it's random chaos, all bets are off. So today it's time to wake up and realize there is no such thing as randomness. There's no such thing as eternal disorder. Everything started perfect. Our job and our ultimate have to achieve goal is peace and harmony again. The center is giving us the ways, the means, the support, and the tools that we can make it happen, not only with peace and harmony, not only with waking up the souls, the Creator's peace, the godlike peace inside 8.5 billion people, but also do it with greater love, kindness, and compassion, that it should take place and can take place. If just we unite, it can not only happen, it can happen in our time. May you and I unite. May all of you who are watching online just bring more people to this wisdom, have access to the Zohar, that we can finish the job in our time so that nobody has to suffer. There doesn't have to be any more pain and suffering in the world, and we can achieve what the Creator is and how the Creator created us. No death, just immortal, eternal bliss. God bless. Thank you. Okay, let me put this out there for them. So, for those of you who are new or newer, make sure you don't leave without at least one of these. All right, we're going to do our meditation here in a minute after the offering. We have one of our 72 names. I'll put it on the screen. You can start looking at it if you want. But what we do now, we're we're asking for your support. Let's just put it directly. We cannot finish the job on our own. I wish I could say we had a benefactor who's giving us a few $1 billion, but meanwhile we don't, unless one of you are out there, right? I mean, for a couple $1 billion, we could spread enough Zohar, enough light taking away the darkness, and the game's over. Meanwhile, each of us have the blessing to be able to contribute, and that's why we take these few moments now to bless our offering. So whatever you'd like to contribute, those of you here and those of you online, I've just put the link. So just whatever gift, whatever offering you'd like to give, because money is a reflection of our consciousness. People use money in abusive, self-centered ways to lord power over people, or you and I are learning how to use money to actually awaken the soul and harmonize people. So empowering the projects of the center, spreading the Zohar and Kabbalah, speeds up the process to remove the darkness. So whatever you're willing to offer, money is a vessel. So let's put our love, our kindness, and compassion, put our gratitude and our blessings, put the energy of love your neighbor as yourself. The true meaning of that is to come to the certain, complete awareness that there is only one human being on earth with 8.5 billion organs within that one being. So to love our neighbor as ourselves is to truly have the awareness, the feeling, and the certainty that everybody is one. And what happens anywhere in the world is affecting everyone in the world. And so we want to put that energy into our offering, speeding up the process to awaken the oneness, the unity, and the awareness that we all are the creators of our life, have been the creators of our life, and now making the choice to choose the path of the light, the path of love, kindness, compassion, forgiveness, that will attract the light in the soul and everybody to act in harmony, unity, and oneness that we can see in our time. The manifestation, if you will, the re-entering the Garden of Eden forever and for eternal bliss. And together we say, Amen. So for those of you here, you see it. For those of you online, these 3 letters, they are Aramaic or Hebrew letters, but they're primordial. They just shine the light of the Creator. And this is one of what's called the 72 names of God. And this one in particular helping us to contact. Often we talk about it if people trying to speak with their loved ones who've gone on. This is also a name to use. But for today, I want to put it in the frame of contacting our past lives. Because, like I shared my journey, by understanding and having a sense of my past life, it gave me a lot of, let's call it stress reduction. It gave me a lot of relief, understanding, and therefore more capability to move my destiny more powerfully, more quickly, and more effectively on the path of the light instead of chaos, the path of harmony and order instead of discord. So these letters, Chet, Bet, Vav, the combination of these 3 frequencies of the light of the Creator will help awaken a greater sense of clarity and awareness to be able to understand, even if it's not clearly seeing your past life, but having a sense of, by putting all the pieces together of things that maybe have come to your mind today as I was speaking, or will come to your mind this week. Chet Bet Vav. So just look at the shapes. Eyes are the windows to the soul. And so the light that shines from these combination can help awaken the light that will remove the blockage that has not allowed us to sense our past life, have a realization or an awareness of our past life. Chet Bet Vav. So I ask you to sit comfortably in the chair, hands on your lap. Begin taking a few deep breaths, breathing in through the nose. Hold the breath for a moment. Exhale through your mouth. Allowing the physical air and the light of the Creator that contains to channel through you and circulate, bringing in new, fresh energy, holding the breath to allow it to penetrate through all the blockages inside you from head to toe, and as you exhale, letting go of those blockages, feeling a greater sense of the vibration of the light inside you and around you. Consciously reaching out to the infinite, unconditional love that the light of the Creator is enveloping us with 24/7. Allow yourself to feel that light inside you as you're awakening a new awareness of it by circulating this light through the breath. Just let go. Envision the Chet Bet Vav just above your head. See its shining light, this bright white light shining out of it, feeling the vibration. Of the ability of accessing your past life. An awareness, and most importantly, the ability of transforming some of the stress, the confusion that you've been carrying with you into a greater sense of peace, knowing there is a system and knowing you have now the control and ability to use the system to create greater peace and harmony, put things back in their true, perfect order. So let's allow the Chet Bet Vav to enter through the top of your head. And place it inside your mind, the access point to the voice of your soul, and also the place that that challenger exists, that false voice. And so let the Chet Bet Vav shine its light to remove the darkness, to reduce the influence, reduce the volume of the voice of that false, challenging voice in your head. Allow the light and the voice of your soul to be stronger, clearer, more powerful. And let's create the consciousness, the vessel, if you will, for revelation by asking, strengthen your desire to hear from the voice of your soul what you need to know, see, feel, understand about how things in your life that have seemed chaotic or unfair or illogical, unexplainable, can be connected to your past lives. To ease that stress and give you greater power and strength to put things back into order, to move things forward into the light, to have more of the blessings that the Creator has implanted in your soul. And now strengthening that desire, let the Chet Bet Vav pass from head to toe, removing the darkness, the blockages, the limitations that have existed inside you, to make the light in all those parts more connected, more powerful, more supportive, more clarifying. That your heart has a greater sense of peace and serenity, and that you have a greater determination and commitment to move forward with greater love, kindness, and compassion, letting the light shine out of your heart and soul to all the world on higher levels, through whatever darkness and challenges you may face from this day forward. And as you're feeling this new awakening of power, consciousness, inspiration, and clarity, let's take a beam of light out of our heart and soul, Chet Bet Vav, and shine it out to the heart and soul of all humanity. One, to have greater access to more of the totality of our true oneness and potential and power. And two, to awaken that light inside every human being, that aspects of their darkness, confusion disappear. The illumination of the truth shows up in their heart, their soul, and their mind. And we are strengthening their desire to fulfill the mission that we all came here to do. Be united as one in peace, love, unity, and harmony, and to experience eternal bliss. Take note, engrave, commit to memory this vision, this feeling of the world at peace, the world as one, the light enveloping the entire world, all humanity. See the world as the Garden of Eden, as it truly is, as we take more and more of the covers off. Take conscious note, and again, engrave it in your heart, soul, and mind, the greater sense of peace and serenity that you're feeling. And whatever your soul is speaking to you, commit it to memory. Let it be anchored in your conscious mind. And commit yourself to live into that power, that vision, and your true potential. Drawing all the good from your past lives through the Chet Bet Vav, the greater sense of awareness, clarity of why things have been as they have been. The true perfection of cause and effect as it's taken place in your life. And using all of this wisdom, power, and revelation, inspiration, to move forward, consciously using the power of the light of your soul, knowing that what you put into the world does come back to you in the right way, the right time, the right means, to support you in finishing your tikkun and the world's tikkun simultaneously. And together we'll take one more deep breath to anchor this, keep it with us, heart, soul, and mind, and slowly exhale and open your eyes. Have a great week. God bless all of you who came here. God bless all of you watching out there. And thank you for joining us. If you liked what you saw, subscribe to this channel that you'll be notified when we post new videos. Share the video with your friends, they can also benefit. And check out the website, www.kabbalah.com, that's Kabbalah, for hundreds of articles and classes. Wish you an amazing day, and God bless.